Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Old Bikes. Today we're going to be working on the BSA 650, the Super Flash. We've got to get it ready for the rally next week. We've got a national BSA rally down in Geelong. So we need to get a bike going and sorted for next weekend. Probably needs an oil change, needs a top of fork oil, chain lube, just going through all the basic maintenance issues that they have. Make sure that there's got no leaking fuel, or try to stop as many leaks as we can before the rally. Near impossible thing to do on a BSA, but we'll give it a go. So yeah, so we'll just run through the process. Okay, so this bike I tried to make as nut and bolt correct as I absolutely could. There is a couple of things that I've added that may have come out of the catalogue back in 1954, but the couple of things of note, the carby, it's running a monoblock carby instead of the TT carb, and that's just for reliability and just, you know, so it idles and runs nicer. It has got a high-low switch here, which the high-low is actually twisting the grip, and the horn is here. So it's got the cut-off switch there. Obviously the manual advance lever, advance, retard. It's got the correct levers, all that sort of thing. I've put aftermarket bar end mirrors on it just because I don't like the way the standard ones are. But apart from that, it's a pretty stock bike. Okay, so one of the first thing we've done is taken the inspection cap off the primary, and the primary chain's quite tight, so we will be adjusting that up first. Okay, so one of the first things that we've come across is the primary chain. It's got way too much tension on it, so we're going to have to back that off. So it's not as simple as just backing this chain off. Of course, you've got your gearbox adjuster here, so you loosen the tension off your gearbox pivot bolt and then adjust the nut down the thread of the adjuster to bring the gearbox forward. So this will loosen the chain, but what that does as well is tightens the rear chain. So at the same time we adjust that, we're going to have to adjust the rear chain, because the rear chain is going to get tighter as we move the gearbox forward. So it's basically, we do two processes in one. Okay, so next here we're going to drain the oil out and change the oil. So it's quite a simple process on these old BSAs. This is our drain plug, and also acts as the oil filter. So we will remove that. I've got a cut up tub that would drain the oil straight out of that. Well, just jam that up under there and it saves the oil dripping all over the exhaust and all over the frame and everything. And we'll drain it out. Okay, so now we've replaced the engine oil, the fork oil, and now we're going to check the gearbox oil, and that's quite simple. On these A10s, there is a little drain plug right here, so it's a oil level plug. So we will just undo that. So on the A10, checking the oil level on the gearbox is pretty easy. You can either take the inspection plate off and jam something down there and see, or you can just undo this bolt here, this plug here, which this is an oil level plug, not a drain plug, it's a level plug, so you can fill it up till the oil comes out. Okay, so what we did, we loosened the fill level plug out and established that there was oil dripping out of it, so we do not need to put any more oil in the gearbox. It's got enough in it. Okay, there is one thing that has been annoying me since I've got this bike running, is the petrol taps. These taps are kind of period correct. I couldn't get any push-pull proper Ewitts ones. You can't buy the corks for them anymore, so you can do a modification on them that you put a little O-ring inside them, but I just didn't have any good enough to restore. So I got these, which look good and they work good, but they leak. These are just a press fit. Look, you've got a brass cylinder with the brass tap running through, and it's basically a cone shape, and there's a spring on the back and it's supposed to pull it in and seal it, but they do not seal. As you can see, you can probably see there that there's petrol leaking out of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to drain the fuel, and we're going to get some valve paste and try to seat these in like you would a valve. So we'll put some valve paste in there, spin them around, try to get it seated nice, and then put it all back together and see if we accomplish anything or make more leaks. So now we'll just drain all the fuel, and then we can pull this tap apart and lap it in. I don't really want to pull it out of the tank because that's just a whole nother mission in itself, trying to seal it back up, and that it's sealed fine into the tank. We'll just pull it apart while it's sitting in there. Hopefully we can fix it. Okay, so while we're waiting for the fuel to drain, we will go ahead and lube up the rear chain. It's quite an easy process. We've got some chain lube. We'll just spray it on and spin the back wheel and make sure the chain's fully lubricated. Okay, so what I was going to suggest is that we put some spare spark plugs and a spark plug spanner and a couple of basic tools into the toolbox, which has never had anything in it because we've only done a few miles on it. But I'm glad I did, because opening up the toolbox we find a couple of bolts floating around in there. So obviously our few shakedown runs, and we've lost the nuts off the back of the bolts that hold the regulator on. So we'll just add that to the list, and now we'll have to pull the seat off to get to that, to put it all back together. So that's what we're going to do now. The fuel's still draining, so we'll just let it go. We've got the top off it, but it's still draining away. Here is the forks. Luckily for us, the same socket that fits the oil tank fits the forks. And once again, just be really careful if you're around paint and you're using your socket. You don't want to take any of the paint off. What we'll do is we'll keep one cap on. This is purely because this is where our instruments are attached to, is onto this bracket, and that brackets are held down by the fork caps. So we'll take one off the top so that we don't have our instruments falling all over the place. I've actually got dampening units inside these forks. Try to get the forks moving and working a little bit better. So what we'll do, we'll work out how much we need and we'll put some in and do it to both sides and put it all back together again.